Na la'amod, me'ir de Miriam de Abraham. Please arise onto the Zoom screen and unmute yourself. Me'ir of Miriam and Abraham.
Blessed is the reader who is blessed. Barechu et akore amevorach.
We bless the reader who is blessed with knowledge on this day. Nevarech et hakore hamevorach bechachma hayom.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It's a pleasure. It's here with you. I'm speaking from Portugal, and I belong to a humanistic community here in Porto, a very small group growing. And Martin invited me to be with you to speak a little bit about Baruch Spinoza, the patron of this Havurah. I would like to, it's the first time that I will speak about Spinoza in English. I used to speak in Portuguese, but I will try, and you will develop your intuition. So I want to raise some questions, not to be very long, because we can speak about Spinoza 3 days here. But I will try to make a sum, and after I will like to hear your questions and your reflections about Baruch Spinoza. I'm as a humanistic Jew, as a liberal Jew, I love Spinoza. I study philosophy, and I asked myself, what the relation of Spinoza with Judaism? So, and if Spinoza is alive today, what nomination perhaps it can belong? Perhaps humanistic Judaism, perhaps Unitarian Universalists, I don't know, is a great question. So I will try to make a very sum of his life. As you know, Spinoza belonged to a Portuguese Jewish family who go to Amsterdam because Inquisition in Portugal. In Amsterdam, he found his parents found a community in growing, the Portuguese and Spanish community of Amsterdam. This community is very strong because the people who live there, the Portuguese Jews, are salesmen, no? We tradesmen, and a very rich community. They founded schools, Beit Midrash, Yeshivot. And Spinoza, his father is from the south of Portugal, Alentejo, and his mother is from Porto, my city. The Spinoza mother is the third wife of Michel de Spinoza, his father. Spinoza grew in a very traditional house, fully Jewish. He learned in the Talmud Torah school. He was, we can say today, a Louis, a very genius student. People, the rabbis saw in him a future rabbi of the community. But when his brother died, and when his father died, he and his brother take care of the trade of the father. So he stopped the studies. He didn't go to the yeshiva to study rabbinic studies. He only finished the basic studies in Hebrew, grammar, the Torah, the commentaries, the traditional commentaries to the Torah, but don't study in the more high levels with Rabbi Shaul Levi de Morteira, who is the main chief rabbi of Amsterdam community. But he didn't stop to study. He studied in yeshiva, in Beit Midrash, in his free times, and he studied with this Rabbi Levi Morteira. He studied mainly Jewish philosophy, mainly Maimonides, the More Nebuchim, the Guide of Perplexity. He was very deep in these studies in Jewish philosophy. He studied other medieval philosophers, Jewish philosophers. But in this time, he joined with some troublemakers in the community. One of them is De Prado, Daniel de Prado, or Juan de Prado. Juan de Prado is a doctor with Spanish roots who have a deistic perspective and is against the immortality of the soul. So this Juan de Prado studied theology in Spain, in Salamanca, I think, I'm not sure, studied theology and medicine. And another friend called Orobio de Castro studied with him theology and medicine. But Orobio de Castro turned a very Orthodox Jew and writes some works to defend the immortality of the soul. But De Prado don't go to this path and defend a kind of deism and a kind of philosophical position with Judaism. And Spinoza was one of his friends, colleagues, and they lived together and spent many time together in the house of friends to speak with, discuss philosophy, theology. And in this time, Spinoza are expelled for the community, the Herem. Actually, some scholars like Nadler, Stephen Nadler, and others try to get the real reason for this excommunication, for this Herem. It's very complex and very difficult to choose one reason, because have here political and theological questions. Theological, because this community are made with anusim, with people who are turned from Christianity to Judaism, and the leaders of this community have the care to define Judaism very orthodoxly. One reason. Other reason, the Jews are tolerated in Amsterdam, but if the Jews start to make troubles in the city, they will be expelled. So Spinoza is a very dangerous person to all community, because if outside the community, the Calvinists and other Christians authorities heard that a Jew start to preach against the immortality of the soul and for example, and the humanity of the authorship of the Torah, of the Bible. So the community can be in problems. So this excommunication is a need to save the community. One of the very few communities with permission to live a Jewish life in Europe. Okay, so it's a very complex and hard question. But Spinoza, the community tried to turn he back, give some money to belong community, to study rabbinic studies, but he don't want to follow this path. He wants the freedom of his thinking and his life. And after some years after, a prince of Germany, I think is Heidelberg, invite him to be a teacher, a professor in the University of Heidelberg. But he rejects because he doesn't want to lose his free thinking, and he need to establish with the religions patterns of this kingdom. So Spinoza lives a very secular life after this excommunication. He changed his name for Benedictus, not Baruch, but Benedictus is a Latin name. He studied Latin with an ex-Jesuit priest, and he started his philosophy career. But he never give up his Jewish studies. So he writes the treatise, theological political treatise, is one of the most magnificent treatises in theology. He writes about the Bible, around the prophecy, the revelation. Is a dialogue between him and Maimonides' philosophy. And in many points, he are against Maimonides, which is the most authority in Jewish philosophy. So Spinoza appears for us in modernity as a new Maimonides. If Maimonides established the Jewish philosophy of medieval times, Spinoza established the Jewish philosophy of modern times with a secular and natural view. For us Jews and liberal Jews, humanistic Jews, is a fundamental work to understand our belief or disbelief and understand our position and our philosophy in Judaism. Spinoza is the first one to put this in a system. So Spinoza, in this theological treatise, speaks about the independence of theology from philosophy. And some scholars view in him a follower of a Jewish Averroism. Averroism is a position that appeared in medieval times. The people study Aristotle and follow Aristotle radically, who negates the creation of the world and the immortality of the soul. So, and the distinction in the medieval times, Averroes is a Muslim philosopher, make the distinction, and he talks about the two truths, two ways, a philosophical truth and a theological truth. The theology has one purpose, the philosophy has another purpose. Philosophy is the purpose to find the truth. And in nowadays, we can name this philosophy or science. Try to find truth. And theology, try to find a good way of life by obedience, by devotion. Not seek the truth, seek the good action and the moral action for obedience and devotion. So Spinoza, in this treatise, deep and explain this distinction, isn't against religion. Many people think that Spinoza is against religion as anti-religion person. No, he says that the religion is very needed for the majority of people, because the majority of people can't attain the good life by reason, can't attain the good life, way of life, only by philosophy or by science. Need religion as obedience and has a devotion to seek and to arrive to this place, to the beatitudo, is happiness of life. So these two ways are parallel ways, but all is needed. And Spinoza, to finish, say that theology need to focus in two things: in history of the text, to understand the intentions of the authors of the text and the context of this text, and need to study philology, to study the meaning of the words, in this case, the meaning of the Hebrew Bible, biblical Hebrew. So he stopped, among writing his theological treatise, he started to write his grammar of Hebrew. It's a very original Hebrew grammar because this grammar is translated in English, in French, Italian, and Spanish, and Czech. This in Hebrew too. This Hebrew grammar, in that time, many in Protestant and in Jewish tradition, in this time appear many grammars. But Spinoza want to make an original grammar because he says that we need to understand the Hebrew, the live Hebrew that people who wrote the Bible speaks to understand. So he doesn't want to make a grammar of biblical Hebrew, but want to make a grammar of Hebrew of classical time. Is a different thing. So he doesn't write his grammar based in the text only, because if we write a grammar based on in the appearance of the words in the text of Hebrew Bible, we will find many exceptions in grammar. But he tried to, by intuition, to discover the language structure behind the text, to find the new patterns that we don't find in the Bible, but follow the same logical that some words that appear in the Bible. So this grammar is one of the fundamental works to Yehuda, who make the modern Hebrew for the state of Israel, to make his work of the modern Hebrew language. Spinoza is one of the founder of this Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew, but the live Hebrew. So in a theological treatise, Spinoza, when speaks about the Jews, he speaks always as they, not we. So we can say that we don't consider a Jew himself, don't consider anymore a Jew. And for example, for a humanistic Jewish perspective, if one person don't consider himself a Jew, in spite of having Jewish parents, he is not a Jew. But in fact, we can say that in this theological treatise, Spinoza writes as an anonymous. So they don't want people relate this text with him. So perhaps this is one reason that he doesn't say we, but say they in this work. But in fact, he studied all his life, and all his life he stayed connected with the Jewish culture, with the Jewish text, with the Jewish language, and every time people outside called him the Jew of Würzburg, the city that he lived sometime. The Jew of Würzburg, all knows he's as a Jew, and he has many Christian friends, but he never converted to Christianity. So in that time is a very peculiar position, because it's difficult to say that he is a Jew, but he don't belong to a Jewish community, he doesn't belong to a Christian community, is a very, in that time, is a very strange position in society, because he don't believe nothing. And in any text, he don't identify himself with nothing. He don't speak about what he is. He doesn't give a title to himself. And I want to finish with that. Nowadays, we have some crisis of identity. We need to identify ourselves with a rótulo. I don't know how to say in English, a rótulo. Rótulo is the thing you put in the bottles here. How do you say the paper you put here?
A label?
A label.
A label. And we have nowadays, because the very complex world and the very complex story of ourselves, we need a label for ourselves. What I am. I'm a Portuguese, I'm a Persian person, I'm an English person, I'm a Jew, I live in a Christian culture, but I like Buddhist things, I like Hinduist, I'm atheist too. What I am, we need this kind of label, but ourselves are very complex, are very ambiguous, are very fluid. So a study says that people who have a more flexible identity is more happier, because don't close in a name or in a concept. So Spinoza teach us, for me, this flexibility, because he participates in all these areas, in all these communities. He speaks about Christ as a philosopher. He speaks about Hebrew Bible, Hebrew, he has Christian friends, he has Jewish connections, but no one knows who is he, because he is himself. When someone says he's a Spinozist, not another other thing, he's a Spinozist. So I want to finish here my presentation, and I hope you have questions and other things about Spinoza. I will have a pleasure to answer what I know. Thank you.
Chazak
Chazak
Ubaruch.
Hasahu Baruch, Hasahu Baruch,
Strong
Hasahu
and
Baruch,
blessed.
Hasahu Baruch.
We now turn our minds and hearts toward those who need our love, who are ill, who are lonely, who suffer pain, or who have been wronged. And let us pause as we call out their names or write in the chat. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. May all who suffer know they are not alone. May they experience refuah shlema, the renewal of body and spirit.
Makom hakoach betofenu, mekorot habracha mechevrotenu. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Please stand and call out the name or write in the chat the names of anybody that you are remembering at this time, somebody that you have lost at any point in your life. May there be a good remembrance and compassion and kindness and love from all the world upon the names of our honorable loved ones who have passed from the world. Let us make a place in our hearts to remember their good names, a good memory, and let us honor them with good deeds. May their memory be a blessing forever. And please say with me, Amen. יהי נא זיכרון טוב וחסד ורחמים ואהבה מכל העולם על שמות המכובדי יקירנו שעברים מן העולם. הבה ננצור בליבנו את שמות הטובים וזכרם הטוב, ונוקירם במעשים, זיכרונם לברכה לעולם ועד. Please say Amen.
It is upon us to praise the beauty of the world, even as we fall and rise up, and to continue the work of repairing the world. For within us is the power to build and repair, and it is in our hands to bring about a liberation, and one day humanity will be united and one in purpose.
עלינו לשבח לתנפת תבל, לפעול ולעמול לתיקון עולם, כי בכוחנו לבנות ותקן, ובידינו להצמיח גאולה. וביום ההוא יהיה האדם אחד, ויודו אחד.
And this is a moment to pour your juice or whatever it is you want to use for Kiddush. I have grape juice. We raise our glass. The 6th day, and on the 7th day we complete the labor which we perform. And we refrain on the 7th day from all our labor, and we bless the 7th day and set it aside, for we refrain from all the labor which we have to do. Keeping our glass raised. יום השישי ויתחל ביום השביעי המלאכה שנעשתה, ותשפוט ביום השביעי כל המלאכה שנעשתה. נברך את יום השביעי ונקדש אותו, כי בו שבתנו מכל המלאכה שבחרנו לעשות. Raise our glass some more. דברי חברים וחברות, ברוך האור בחיים, בורא פרי הגפן. אמן. לחיים.
Blessed are those that bring forth bread from the earth.
ברוכים המוצאים לחם מן הארץ. אמן. תיאבון.
Let us bless life, the power that is within. Let us give thanks for the good things which we have. Praise be the good friend, because they always help us. Praise love, for it is good, and let friendship endure forever. Let us bless life, first for our ethics that bind our people with goodness continuously. Praise be the good friend, because they always help us. Praise life, for it is good, and let health endure forever. Bless this house, a home to friendship, where we keep this festival with joy and permanence. Praise love, for it is good, and let friendship endure forever.
Thank you, Betty Ann. That is the English translation of the humanistic adaptation of Bendigamos, which is a blessing after eating in the Spanish and Portuguese community.
Bendigamos a la vida, el poder que hay dentro. Demos de agradecimiento por los bienes que tenemos. Alabado sea el buen amigo, porque siempre nos ayuda. No haga la labor que está bendigamos a la vida por la ley primeramente, que liga a nuestra gente con la bondad continuamente. Alabado sea el buen amigo, porque siempre nos ayuda. Loada la vida que es buena, que para siempre haga salud. Bendita sea la casa esta, el hogar de amistad, donde guardamos la fiesta con alegría y permanencia. Alabado sea el buen amigo, porque siempre nos ayuda. Loada el amor que es bueno, y para siempre hay amistad.
Now I'd like to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody, and we can stop the recording, and then we can have a free and open discussion about Marcos's amazing talk. Thank you, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.